Okay. All right, I'd like to call the regular council meeting for the town of Bay-Westfield of Monday, July 26, 2021 to order at 7:08 p.m. Item 2, record of attendance. Let the record reflect that all councilors are in attendance. Item 3, approval of the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. That the council of the town of Bay-Westfield approve the agenda of July 26, 2021 as presented. Thank you, Councillor Balcom. I have a second?
Yep.
Councillor Day, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 4, conflict of interest. Are there any? There being none. Item 5. Item 5.1, council procedural bylaw number 123. That the council of the town of Bay-Westfield address this item during item 13.1.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Is there anyone here to address the item? John, did we get any correspondence on the item?
No, we didn't receive anything.
Okay. Do you have any questions on the item? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 6, public presentations. Item 6.1, UNBSJ Integrated Health Initiative. We have Dr. Petra Hoff here with us today. Thank you, Dr. Hoff. I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Merrifield and councillors. Thank you for having me and for providing me with the opportunity to present the Integrated Health Initiative of UNB St. John. And I really appreciate the opportunity. First of all, it's coming to Bay-Westfield with sharing this excitement that we're having up on our Tucker Park campus. And I would like to start with the second slide. Can you go to presenter view or like slideshow? Just slideshow, yeah, and then the next one, perfect. So the Integrated Health Initiative is basically building on many, many years of investment on Tucker Park with the hospital, the St. John Regional Hospital moving up there, UNB St. John campus, Dalhousie Medicine New Brunswick is now almost 10 years there, and New Brunswick Community College Allied Health. So there is already like a really, really focus on health, and the Integrated Health Initiative of the St. John campus is basically building on this momentum and adding another initiative or getting to the next level. As you can see on the next slide, we're building the Integrated Health Initiative on 5 pillars who speak in general to the action plan of the university, but focus on health with education, which is normal business of a university, is teaching and educating the next generation, but also integrated and collaborative research, technical and social innovation, so looking at research from a social perspective, social sciences perspective, but also knowledge transfer and commercialization, and last but not least, the Health and Social Innovation Center. And before I go into those 5 pillars, I would like to tell you first upfront what it will do to the communities. So on the next slide, you can see the anticipated economic outcomes. So with the launch of new programming, academic programming, new research, new commercialization with external partners, we are looking at an increase in enrollment of 500 students for the St. John campus. And that's about 27%. So it is really like a major shift in enrollment, something that we need for many, many reasons. And with all the faculty members, staff that is needed to not only educate those students, but also to build on the research, we're looking at a payroll of about 40 million, a payroll growth over the next 8 years. Again, these are people who are already here or coming here and getting the salaries and hopefully spend all their money in our region. But with the research funding, and that was a comment that was made earlier, with a focus on investing into our research, we also become more competitive to get more of external funding that typically goes to other provinces in the Maritimes, and New Brunswick doesn't get their share. So we want to do more in helping to increase those research funds, federal research funds typically, but also from private sectors to come to our region. And the other part is it's about building our reputation as a leader in health innovation, building on what we have already done and expanding on that strengths, and building, basically getting St. John and the region known as a globally significant location for health innovation. And on the next slide, you can see that this National Center of Excellence in Health is not only helping to improve the healthcare for families and informing the utilization of provincial healthcare funding, but it's also growing the population and is attracting high qualified personnel to come to our region. And it's, as I said before, it's empowering existing networks and just to become even stronger and to build new innovative ecosystems. It also speaks, and that's an important part, not only for the region, it also speaks to the key factors or key priorities identified by the New Brunswick government, namely dependable public health care, world-class education, energized private sector, and vibrant and sustainable communities. So how do we want to all achieve that? The first part on the next slide, you can see the health education. So we have already launched last year, despite COVID, a new undergraduate interdisciplinary health program that is preparing students for different careers in healthcare. While it's an ideal preparation for getting ready for medical school or graduate school, it also prepares them to work in other areas in health. And so those students are starting with a foundation and then select one of three majors: biomedical sciences and health, which I think is more the science-based piece, but also society and health, which focus on social determinants of health. We know nowadays that more than 50% of the factors that actually defining our health is not our physical health, it's the environment we're living in, the style we're living, and all those access to healthcare and other factors. So we want to basically also educate students on this area. And what is really unique for this program is a management in health major. So while the first students had to decide either to do a health education and then maybe do an MBA later, or do a business degree and then maybe a health focus later, we are allowing here students from the get-go to identify management in health as a priority. And health managers are needed. Like, our health sector really needs people who have these management skills, not only their skills on the medical side, but also on the management side. So we basically have designed this program around the needs of the region, and our systems here, our healthcare sector, but also around students, providing them with ample of opportunities and not narrow careers, but also like a broad understanding of health, no matter what career they are going to start later. And as we are really think it's important to have experiential education experience, we have an extracurricular certificate that we're starting this year that does this volunteering in the communities, job shadowing people that work in the health sector, but also like doing internships and co-op and all these things. And then we want to continue with graduate programs for those who are interested to do more, like with master's programs, but also the well-established MBA program that is Uptown St. John will offer, as of this October intake, a specialization in management in health at that level as well. So with all those programs together, we are anticipating those 500 students over the next, originally we said 8 years, I'm now saying 5 years, because we have the second cohort coming in September, and our enrollment is already way higher than what we had anticipated. So there is a big uptake. And what is also important to note is that the students that are coming into the program are coming to New Brunswick for the program. So the St. John campus was built to serve the community and has done this all along and will do this in the future. Over the last 5 years, just as an average, 90% of the students are on the St. John campus are from New Brunswick. And we want to continue serving. So we do what we are supposed to do and what we want to plan doing in the future, but we want to attract students from outside the province to come here as well. And with the health program, we have now 50% of the students who are coming this September are coming from outside of the province. And this is what we wanted. We wanted to get them here. We want them to have a great learning experience here, see our quality of life we have to offer here in the region, and then connect them with industry and private sector so that they have jobs here and actually stay in the region. So on the next slide, we talk about research. We have identified 5 research areas: digital transformation of healthcare, child rights for child health, public health and health policy, management in health and aging in the communities. These were 5 areas that were identified with external and internal stakeholder consultation that are adding to the expertise already here. So not duplicating, that's something that Dalhousie Medicine New Brunswick is already doing, or the hospital is already doing. This is adding additional expertise. And also, like, there is an intersection between all of those chairs. So the idea is that they are kind of working together, and while they're working in their disciplines, also will be able to kind of ignite each other and create these clusters of research. And so that's on the research part. As I mentioned before, on the next page, you can see that there is a focus on the social component of health. We have longstanding mandate. We always had it at the core to look at social impact. And so Promise Partnership is one of our initiatives where we help students out of the priority neighborhoods in St. John to get access to tutoring and mentoring, so make it through high school and then actually make it to university. We have 10 years now with that program, and at the moment we have 14 students at UMB who would not be in the university if they wouldn't have gone through that program and having this support. The Urban and Community Studies Institute, and also now a partnership with Living St. John, where we are in the process of creating a policy or a poverty action lab to help with decreasing generational poverty in the St. John region. The next slide is focusing on something that is really important to me, because universities are not only existing to kind of for themselves. They have a service for the public good. And so knowledge transfer and commercialization are important parts. So knowledge transfer to me is whatever we find out, we want to do everything that's necessary in the expertise and the discipline, but then also want to translate this knowledge in a way that it can benefit everyone, so that we have workshops around aging, for example, to better understand the aging process, even if you don't have all those expertise and you're not working in that field. And on the other hand side, there is the commercialization. So we have signed a letter of intent with Opportunities New Brunswick and the LA Group from Surrey, BC, to build a health and technology district right on the St. John campus, basically walking distance to the hospital, to the university, and to the medical school, with the idea of private sector building that building and coming there and looking for creating this health innovation ecosystem. And the next slide shows their first investment. So they have committed to a building to invest 30 million to create this infrastructure that then will allow new business to come to the province, to St. John, and create this health innovation hub right there. And it will be connected with what we're doing on the academic side as well. So that's really was important for them. They have done that very successfully in Surrey, and they were looking for an East Coast opportunity where they have exactly the same thing again. The university was feeding the talent right into their companies that are there, and having this strong early connection. And with this integrated health initiative and the integrated the health and technology district, we're basically creating these powerful synergies that we need to get to this economic impact and to the population growth that we're looking for. And last but not least, with 500 extra students, we also need infrastructure to house those students, to have new appropriate learning spaces. Teaching is done today differently than it was 30 or 40 years ago or 60 years ago when we built the first buildings up on Tucker Park. We have to invest in innovative and active learning spaces. We also need to get the space for those researchers to come here, but also to have basically this informal learning space that students were asking for. They need more space where they can just sit and practice. And this building is basically designed for the purpose of the Integrated Health Initiative. And the next slide has a different perspective on this 3.5-story building that has 65,000 square foot and is replacing the old Ward Chipman Library, which is empty since almost 10 years now. And we're also planning an Indigenous healing garden that we are designing in collaboration and consultation with our Indigenous friends. The building itself, next slide, has $38 million price tag attached to it. And is shovel ready. So basically, the moment we have secured funding, we can start immediately and would be done in 20 months. And it will already during the construction phase create jobs in the region. But more importantly, as you can see on the next page, we're looking overall into a $106 million investment over the next couple of years. The building, the 38 million, is only the smaller part of it. There's also going to be 12 million going into scholarships and bursaries to ensure that students have access to education. The Health and Technology District, that's a private sector investment I just spoke about, 30 million. And then we're looking into 26 million to support those research chairs, but also to have this innovation research fund available for them to get their research off the ground fast and to be faster, competitive, and get external funding back in. And if you look at how we want to get that funding on the next slide, we have asks sent to the provincial government and the federal government for 12 million each. The LA group would spend 30 million, and the rest would come from UMB and external partners. We have a little piece of our 52 million there already in place that allows us to actually start immediately with the construction if we get once we get commitment from the province. But then we will basically start into reaching out to external partners and of course donor relations. So my last slide then basically is my taking action where I'm here. So one is to share this excitement, but also to basically show that we are serious about this. This is a priority of UMB, not only of the St. John campus of UMB. So the president is in full support and is advocating at different meetings for the same initiative. It will be a game changer for us in the region. We will be known for this integrated health initiative across the country. And we were able to attract this private sector investor to foster this partnership even stronger. And my call to action here is basically that the town council help us to spread the word so that people understand what the IHI, how I call it, the Integrated Health Initiative is about and how it will impact our communities in the region. And with this, I thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to take questions if you have any.
Thank you, Dr. Hoff. This is a really exciting opportunity to have a center of excellence like this in our region. And the opportunity it'll afford to bring in highly qualified people from all over.
Yeah.
I think that's really amazing. I do have a question. You said there's going to be space for approximately 30 businesses. What types of businesses would those be?
So the businesses are all related to health. That's basically health and technology. It's an innovation district, so the idea is to get different companies together that will support each other. I can't tell you who it is yet, but what I can tell you is the tenant selection committee is actually, there is representation of the university on there, of course of the LA group, also Opportunities New Brunswick, and what also is really important, the CEO of Envision St. John has a seat on that tenant selection committee. And we made that clear at the beginning when we were negotiating that contract with this external partner. At that time, we didn't know who the CEO would be, but the point was there's nothing that can succeed here in the region if it's not carried by the community and has support of the community. And therefore, we wanted to make sure that any tenants who get in there are vetted by what they bring to the community from Envision St. John as well.
Thank you. Anybody questions for Dr. Hoff? Comments? So I do have another question. So you say there's going to be approximately 500 students coming to take part in that section of new. So you say, which ones, would you refresh my memory, which ones are currently going?
So the Bachelor of Health is an undergraduate program, entry possible direct from high school. And this admission started last year. With COVID, we had not a full recruiting. We had them in person starting. This year, we went through the full recruiting cycle, and we are anticipating between 100 and 120 students coming in September, which is huge already the first year, way higher than we had anticipated, which is really good because it shows us that this is a competitive program, and we're looking forward to welcoming them.
Well, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
So, and I suppose having those businesses in the innovation district will hopefully
Yeah.
the idea is to keep some of those students here.
Yeah, and it's basically, this is the part where how we like say the triple helix, like having the government, having the private sector and the university working on this together is really important, because there's also going to be the commitment of whoever is a tenant in that building in the health district has to contribute to the academic mission of the campus, which could be you're coming as a CEO and you're talking about what your job is and what you're doing. So that means like right at the beginning, students will be exposed to all these opportunities, job shadowing, where they just go with someone for a couple of days and see what's done. And then, of course, we are hoping for the co-op for the program so that there's real internships. But really the point is to connect them early, because what the private sector and the health sector needs to be successful is that talent pipeline. And we are providing this talent pipeline, right, and connecting them at an early stage, which makes it easy for those companies to recruit well-trained and well-educated students into their program, but like connect that from early on. And that was one of the successes of that law group back in Zurich, where it's like you need to have this strong connection. And for our region, it's even more important that we have, first of all, that we have the jobs, but also we will not be able to attract companies to come here if we can't give them the people they need to actually get the jobs done.
Right. Yeah, no, that's excellent. It's very exciting.
I'll tell you, it's one thing I miss about my previous life was having interns and students.
Yeah.
And I think it's exciting because to fill a position, there isn't the educated person there to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think this is wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you.
So from an investment perspective, you say you're waiting on certain funds. So what funds are currently locked in for this project?
The funds that we know are only the ones that UNB has.
Okay.
And those are what you said. That's why we had those funds already accumulated. And that allowed us to get basically everything done from the design to blueprint. Like we know, like the plans are ready for the electricians to start the bidding. The important part is also that the way it's designed, there are local companies who will be competitive for the tender process, which was also important to us when we designed it. We didn't want to get something that we need that is out of our scope, because we want to create those jobs here in the region for our own businesses. And so we were able to get to that point that we're shovel ready. We haven't started the tender process because we can't get started before we have commitment, at least from the provincial fund, from the provincial government. And that's where
do you anticipate that would be?
Well, that's it's a good question. So we had hoped last year, but then COVID kind of had a major impact on all of us. So we are preparing now to have everything ready for the next capital budget process.
I have one more question. So with the businesses that are coming in, are you going to have an idea of them in enough time to maybe develop some supply chain?
Yeah, because we are starting right now, basically with LAC and OMB to look at potential tenants. We're rolling out big campaign in the fall for them to attract companies here. But the construction would be at least 2 years. So that gives enough time for the companies to say, like, no company, not typically like the entrepreneurial, yes, and that will be some space, but the bigger anchor tenants, they are planning years ahead for their own companies as well. So we think we're in a good alignment there with a timeline that those private sector companies would need to come here.
Thank you. Do you have any more questions for Dr. Hoff? John?
Thank you for coming in and sharing.
Yes.
With
Well,
us.
thank you for
Yes,
having me.
thank you very much.
Yeah. And if any questions come up at a later point, you know where to find me.
Yes, I'll be happy to spread the word. This is going to be really great for the region. Yes, John?
I just like to bring to council's attention that Dr. Hoff is one of the vice chair, deputy chair of the Division of St. John. And what are called the outside directors have been doing yeoman's work in getting this new organization off the ground, winding down the old ones. And Dr. Hoff is doing a phenomenal job. And it's unfortunate we can't have all the outside directors here at one time, but they've done a phenomenal job. And I think just public recognition and appreciation is long overdue for at least one person out of this hardworking group. So we really appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Yes. I can only imagine what that's like winding down all those organizations and trying to stand up a new one, all while trying to get the IHI off the ground.
Yeah. It has been quite a year for many reasons, but it's also very exciting to see how everyone is coming together and the Envision St. John and how the municipalities kind of all engaged in that is the strength of this region. And this is something that we want to kind of have in that IHI as well, because we want to get people together. We want to break down silos and we want to work together for the better of our places, but also for the people we're serving. And so I think it's the right place to do this. Like if I wasn't being here yet, I would probably be, that would be the point where I said like, that would get me totally excited to come here.
Mm-hmm. So where was home for you if you come here?
So I'm now, this October, I'm 15 years in Canada, and I came back I came here from Germany originally, and landed in Nova Scotia, and have been in Nova Scotia until March 2 years ago. And now here in St. John, and the best decision I've ever made to come here.
Okay,
Well, that is nice to
stay.
hear.
Like your accent.
Yes.
That's good, that too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me again, and I assume that this is my.
Thank you. And hopefully we'll see you present again in the future with updates on how how it's going.
I would love to. Like, I think I would love to be engaged and be part of what's happening in the region. So whenever you want to hear more about what we are doing at the university, invite me back in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get out to the door, or will I sound an alarm?
Once you come in, you never get out.
No, you're good.
Yeah, like Hotel California.
It's Hotel California.
That's yes. So could I have a motion that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield accept the information as presented?
Second.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Bailmans. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 6.2, Parks and Recreation Comprehensive Master Plan, presented by Megan Carey and Michael Roma.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, members of administration. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time on your agenda. And I have to send regrets from Megan Carey. She actually is attending a wedding and taking some well-deserved vacation time. So you're stuck with just myself, but it'll be quick anyways. Awesome. Well, I'm going to share my screen and get into a bit of a presentation for you. Just want to confirm, can you see that slide?
Yes, we can see it.
Excellent. Excellent. So just to refresh your memory, Mike Roma with RC Strategies. We're the company that's been hired to help the town develop some strategic planning around parks and recreation. And the point of tonight's presentation is just to give you an update as to where we're at with our process. I've got a little bit of a sneak peek into some of the findings of the survey that was fielded, not just some stats about how many responses we had, but also a couple findings. But this is by no means the punchline of our work. This is just an update presentation for you, and it should take about 5 to 10 minutes. So again, just to refresh your memory, so I apologize if this is redundant to some of you, hopefully not all of you, but our work was broken down into 4 different phases. So that included the first couple of phases, which is learning about the community, listening to what stakeholders have to say about parks and recreation. And then the latter 2 phases are figuring out what to do about what we hear and what we uncover. So phase 1 is almost complete. We have had a few, I guess, adjustments to our timelines. So in the box on each of these slides, you'll see what our original timeline was And then in the text, you'll see what our updated schedule is. But phase one's about 95% complete. Just an idea of some of the things that we did in phase one, which is called information gathering and review, is we looked at some of the policy and planning documentation that you have in place as a town and within the region, in the province. We looked at how services are delivered. We looked at the inventories of facilities and spaces and some other key things like trends and demographics. One of the main things that we did at the beginning of the process was we had a startup meeting with the steering committee, which a couple of you are part of, and which we value the participation of very much. Phase two was all about listening to the community. So we had a fairly extensive engagement program of activities. We're about 70% complete. We're complete all of the surveys and the discussions, but we're in documentation mode right now as it relates to those engagement results. So we're about 70% complete. We had 339 responses to our household survey, which gives us a really good level of confidence, or it is statistically significant. We have 25 responses to a group survey that was sent out to 43 different groups. And then we had a chance to dialogue with a number of stakeholders. So we had 12 sessions with a total of 21 different people. So a deliverable out of this phase will be something called a What We Heard report. And the product of our engagement, I guess, with the town is going to manifest itself into two different documents. One will be a What We Heard report, which will outline just all of the statistics and the results of our discussions with the community. So kind of like a resource to look at everything engagement related to our work. And then the other will be the actual master plan documentation, which will have the strategic direction in it. And it'll also have the results of some of the other research that we conducted. I wasn't sure if council has received, or if admin has received a What We Heard report before, if that sounds familiar to you or not. So in this package, there's a link to a recent What We Heard report that we did for community in Alberta. And it would just give you an idea as to what your document will include. It won't look the same, won't have the same stats in it, obviously, but it gives you an idea of what we heard report will look like. And that will be circulated to the town within the next month to month and a half. In terms of that snapshot into what we heard from the community survey, there's a few slides here I'm going to go through. So those of you that would remember maybe our last presentation, the survey was fielded to residents in the town, but also within an immediate region or area. So 87% of the respondents to the survey were from the town or live in the town. A little bit of a discrepancy in terms of your actual demographic as per StatsCan and the demographic of male to female ratios of respondents. But as it relates to the distribution of age groups, very close to what we heard in our survey results to what StatsCan has to say about your population. Couple of the key things that we like to share or focus in on when we ask different questions of the community have to do with barriers to participation. So the benefits speech that I think you've had from us before, why Parks and Recreation is important, and that you'll definitely get again. The benefits from these kind of services are enhanced, or they increase the more participation you have. So it's important to understand why people aren't participating. So when we asked why people weren't participating in recreation or at recreation facilities and programs, you can see the top 4 answers there. Awareness, maybe interests in programs don't match, and so on. And then we asked the same questions for parks and trails. Again, not aware of parks and trails necessarily in the area. But the second highest one was actually meeting dogs off leash, which is a first for me. I haven't seen that as significant a barrier as it is been identified here. But part of the The master plan itself will be to look at what we hear here in terms of barriers, maybe what we've uncovered in other forms of research and so on, and in some ways try to overcome or mitigate those barriers, because like I said, the more use, the more activity you have in the community and in the region, the more benefit you're going to receive. And that could mean getting more benefit out of your current levels of investment. It doesn't even mean you have to maybe spend or invest more. We did ask about spending, and we asked about the value of parks and recreation to quality of life. So 62% of respondents said that parks and rec activities and opportunities are good for quality of life. They positively contribute. 82% felt that these same services contribute to the local economy. And 70%, coincidentally, for both parks and trails and recreation facilities and programs, thought that funding should be increased in providing those services or maybe enhancing those services. So those are a couple of key findings. I just wanted to tease you a little bit, to be honest. I didn't want to give you the whole package. You'll be able to read the What We Heard report, and we'll tie all of that information and all of the other research into our recommendations when those come forward to you. But I just wanted to show you that we have got some good responses. We had some good engagement, and like I said, tease you a little bit with what we heard. So phase 3 is actually taking that upfront research and the results of the engagement and analyzing that, figuring out what to do about that and what it means for the future of parks and rec in the town. So we have started to think about some draft ideas. I'd say we're about 60% complete there. It's really about figuring out where to go to from here. And a key deliverable, and something that's, like I said, very important to us and builds upon the reasons why the steering committee was put together in the first place, is something that we call a strategic visioning workshop that we're going to have next week with the steering committee. And we're going to present all of our findings. We're going to present some draft ideas to that group about what we think it means for the future of parks and recreation in the town. And we're going to get input from them on our draft ideas, give them an opportunity to come up with some other ideas, and help us, I guess, analyze and interpret our findings. And really important to us because it creates kind of a locally founded solution maybe to some issues that we uncover. Builds buy-in to the whole process, but also it captures the expertise and the perspectives of those people that are on the steering committee, because they were chosen to help us through this process. So that's going to happen next week. That's kind of the climax of phase 3. And then after we have that visioning workshop and go through all of the research and get insight from the committee as it relates to different types of recommendations, even an overall vision for those kind of services in the town, goals and objectives and so on. Then we go and develop the draft master plan, and that's scheduled to occur in August and September. That'll be the second document deliverable that you'll see, and that'll be the one that has, I guess, actions, things for the town to do in reacting to what we've found out and following the direction that I guess we help set as consultants, but that the steering committee will be very involved in. And we'll develop a draft. It'll be reviewed back with the public, so the public will have a chance to provide feedback. We'll adjust it where necessary, and then we'll come back to you and present it to you for hopefully your, not just your information, but your buy-in, approval, and acceptance for implementation afterwards. So that concludes my presentation, Your Worship. And as I mentioned, I thought it would be quick, which it was, and I'd be available for any questions that you might have.
That's it. Thank you for that, Mike. I think we're all really excited to see the results of the plan. Does council have any? Oh, John?
Sorry. Originally, the project was supposed to be finished in August.
Yeah.
We got off to a late start due to the development of the website. So their being behind is not the fault of the consultants on this. It was down to other issues.
Thank you for
Yeah.
clarifying that.
Yeah, and that would have been one of my questions is I was concerned about the later deliverable because of its impact on the budget process.
Originally, the surveys were supposed to go out in March, and I don't think we got them out until May to the website development.
Right.
And I think we had this council getting a push on to get that's the number over. That's how late we are. And I think the deliverable could have been later, but it's not as late as it could have been given how far behind.
Yeah.
So there's two different deliverables we're getting. We're getting the what we heard report and then later on the master plan. Is that how it works? We can kind of ingest the first report for a bit first.
Your worship, through the councillor, yeah, that's 100% correct. So like we have everything we need to populate that what we heard report. It's actually been given to our designer to make it look nice and aesthetically pleasing. So what'll happen with that, we'll be presenting the detailed results of that at the steering committee meeting next week. Wanted to make sure that we shared the full information with that committee and got their input for developing the master plan before we made anything maybe public or circulated broader than that committee. But shortly after that meeting, we'll have the document designed, and it'll be, we'll want to clean it up, have it reviewed a few times before it gets back to council and make sure it's perfect when it gets to you. But you'll see that definitely before you'll see the master plan.
Thank you.
Good question.
Yes.
So Mike, you've done this before and you've been involved with various communities. Was there anything surprising coming out from our citizens and from the discussions you've had?
Your worship, through the councillor, very good question. I get that asked quite a bit, and I have done it quite a few times. I don't know if you can see the gray hair in my beard, but there's about 19 years of doing these things in that. I don't know if you'd call that a beard or not, but it depends how good your resolution is there on your screen. But just in terms of surprising, I would say no, because Parks and Recreation is very unique to each community. We always get asked to do comparisons across communities, or, look at communities of a certain size and tell us how many ice arenas they have or how many parks they have and compare us to that. And you can do those kind of things. You can compare yourself to other places, but when it really comes down to it, it really depends on political and administrative will and interests of your community. So you could be in a community that's, very much focused on a certain activity, go down the road a few kilometers, same size community, and it could be focused on something different. So in terms of the activities and the types of things that are occurring, I wouldn't say there's anything surprising yet. The one finding that was a barrier to participation in parks and trails with dogs being off leash, that's the first time I've seen that. First time I've seen a quarter of your households suggest that that's a reason why they don't participate in activities in parks and trails. And I'm going to be 100% open. I don't know if that's something that's more prevalent in the region that you live in. Like, we haven't done any, survey work in, say, St. John or Rothsay or Quispam or any of those places. Like, that might be just something that's a regional barrier. I'm not sure. We might find out the answer to that, but that would be, out of the results of the engagement that I've seen so far, that's probably the most surprising thing. Yeah. But as far as, I really try to shy away from being surprised about anything in communities and comparing communities side by side, because it really is a service it's kind of subjective. There's no necessarily any legislation that says you need to have these kind of facilities or these kind of programs and you need to deliver it in a certain way. So because it's so unique to each community, I tend not to get too surprised about things. So I hope that answers your question, but maybe the barrier to entry or the barrier to participation was the most surprising thing that I saw so far.
Thank you. Councillor McIntosh Lawrence, do you have any questions?
No, that's my question.
Oh, did you? Councillor Bailey, do you have any questions?
Are there any challenges for your challenges? like to get things done?
Your worship, through the councillor, like there's always challenges when it comes to parks and recreation. Like I did share deliberately that one question we asked about increased funding, just to get an idea of where the community was at. When it comes to, like, I can only imagine the pressures that the town's going to be under in your budgeting process moving forward. And, you know, the main challenge, I think, for parks and recreation in general is getting, I like to call it political affection or administrative affection, getting kind of buy-in that these services are important, that they deserve the resourcing that they get right now, and that they might deserve more resourcing. And it's hard to make that argument when you're dealing with a service it's not as easy to quantify in terms of benefit or in terms of outcomes as some other services are. So I do a lot of my volunteer life centers around being I think I've called myself this to you before, a cheerleader for recreation or an advocate for recreation and parks. And I'd say that's probably the biggest challenge is doing as much as you can afford, but also knowing that the appetite for these kind of things, whether it's an activity or a facility type or something, tends to be insatiable. So whatever you do, whatever you can afford, however much you invest, you'll still have somebody out there with their hand up saying, you know, what about this activity, or what about more time in this facility, and so on. So I guess the biggest challenge, and this would be for any of the communities that we work in, even the ones that are maybe more financially or that are financially well off, is just resourcing for these kind of services and making sure that they're not the easy services to get cut when times are tough. And I think times are going to be tough throughout Canada over the next little while when it comes to municipal governance, municipal budgeting.
Thank you, Mike. Councillor Balcom, do you have any questions? I have a question, Mike. So the level of agreement on some of the community survey findings, such as the 82%, you know, for the question on whether parks and recreation contribute to the local economy, is that an unusually high result, or is that sort of standard across the board? I know you just said you don't want to compare communities, but I was surprised by how high these agreement numbers were.
Your worship, great question. And I just want to caveat, like, it's not that I don't like to compare. I just don't want you to take too many conclusions. If I say, you know, that sounds good, or it's a good level of response or whatever, don't draw too many conclusions from that, just because it really, what matters is how you interpret that, or how the town or how the community interprets it. But that being said, the 82% is actually, I would say, kind of par for the course. That's where we would usually see support levels. The one that does stand out a little bit is the 62%. So only just under 2/3 of your residents thought that parks and rec are important to quality of life. And I actually had to go back and check that to make sure it was correct, because usually we have, like, it's an easy question to answer. It's an easy question to say, yeah, of course it impacts our quality of life, makes it better. And I think, you know, some of the other survey findings, maybe some of the other research we'll do, will help us understand more why that wasn't maybe a little bit higher than we would be more used to or accustomed to seeing in communities. Still good level of support for sure. And I think still helps to justify the investment and the affection, again, that you're currently given the services, but have seen it higher than that before most of the time, actually.
Thank you, Mike. Does anybody have any further questions? John, do you want to speak to this at all, or are you good?
No, I think we're meeting next week, and I know it's in capable hands with Mike and his team, and I think we have a good steering committee too. So.
Yeah.
I think we're all looking really forward to all this information. We've talked about this quite a bit. So.
Yes, yes. Okay, well, if we have no further questions, Mike, thank you very much for your presentation. We'll see you again next week at the steering committee meeting, and thanks again.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good to see everybody again, and we'll see you again soon. Have a good
Okay.
remainder of your meeting.
Thank you.
Bye now.
So if I can have a motion that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield accept the update as presented and refer this to the steering committee for input prior to the next update to council. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. I have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Any questions on the motion? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item 7.1, that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of July 12th, 2021 as presented. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. I have a second. Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 8, bills for payment. That the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the bills for payment as presented in the amount for $194,268.65.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Day. A second, thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Any questions on the motion?
You got your list ready?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
The first one, the City of St. John for regional funding, what does that include?
That's the Regional Facilities Commission.
So, everything?
Well, just
So,
for that,
The regional facility.
the Regional Facilities Commission.
okay, and is that a monthly, quarterly, yearly?
I believe it's quarterly.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
So you know what service or what buildings or services we support?
Not all of them,
Well, there's Harbor Station, there's the art gallery,
period?
the theater,
Curious.
Period.
and the Training Convention Center, and the Aquatic Center.
There's 5.
So that's set based on population, I believe, in a certain amount for this community. And no, but I had the same question because I didn't know if it was that or what it was. So, but we pay that quarterly.
That's, it's one of those decisions that has been made for us.
Yes, when we worked against being amalgamated with St. John, part of the thing that came down from the province was that they would set up this regional facilities committee and that we would participate in the operating aspect of all of these facilities. It has since changed, and I believe we're now supposed to be supporting their capital. No? Okay, good, thank you.
We do have representatives on each of boards and
Yes.
yes.
So the legislation is very clear that all the municipalities have to agree to capital. That hasn't occurred.
And what Erin is alluding to is the fact that we used to have every representative come and present to us every year as to what's been happening. So we were kept up to speed as to issues and concerns. And when the Aquatic Center went into issues, we knew about it and were very supportive of making sure that they had what they needed to have to keep running.
And for anybody that doesn't know, we do have representatives on each one of the facilities, and we also, and Deputy Mayor Toole is sitting on the, yes, John?
Sorry, don't mean to interrupt, but our representative for the Trade Convention Center has moved out of town and submitted his resignation.
Okay.
May-ish.
May-ish, so we will eventually be recruiting for a new member.
Yes, that organization is currently.
And Deputy Mayor Toole is our representative on the Regional Facilities Commission. So, that answers your question? Yes, it is. Okay. I know you have more.
I do. So for the Dillon Consulting, I know we go through this every meeting, but what services do we get for that price tag? And can any of it be brought in-house?
So we get engineering, they provide asset management support, they do project management for us. They do technical grant applications. So when it comes to looking at, for example, the applications going forward on emergency generators for buildings, they're the ones who do the work for that. What type of, the technical stuff, what type of wiring do we need, what size of generator, what's the siding, they do all the design work and then they manage the project as well. And if I just back up for a moment, project management is best left to people who know how to manage projects. It's very easy for those types of things to go sideways, especially if they're off the corner of somebody's desk. So some of that money is very well spent. I have had discussions with Dylan, and I've communicated this to the mayor, that we will be reviewing once we have a CFO in place, bringing some of those things in-house. We're not in a position to do that at this time. So far the billing this year is around 71,000, and their invoice at the end of the year, rough thumb, Bruce can correct me if I'm wrong, or anything else I said wrong here, is around 12%. Could be 10%, could be 14, 15%, but a rule of thumb is around 12% is what that's expected. The change that was instituted for 2021, that wasn't in place in the previous years, is that we are now paying for design work in 2021 that will be done for in 2022. So they'll be doing surveying, other stuff on projects approved by council this year for next year, so that those tenders can be ready to go in January. So, and by tendering early, there's to be expected savings.
We waited 1 year before we send out the tenders because things just didn't fall in place. Well, the price of quotes that came back, we didn't award the work. We held off for another year because it was ridiculous what they wanted for paving. So, yeah, that's a good thing that we do that now better than what we were doing. Because we were trying to agree to capital in December so we could have it ready to roll out in January.
So we'll be coming, Bruce might be able to answer this better than I, but we'll be bringing stuff to council here next 2 or 3 meetings to get design work done for the following year.
And the other thing is one of our strategic pillars. We're going to be looking at some of this stuff of what we farm out
Right.
versus what we are doing in-house. So,
Engineering bills, they just hurt to look at.
yeah.
Sorry, there's no way to put sugar without.
No.
Okay, but they do good.
Thanks, John. And I'm just not aware, Ash Casey knows, what sort of consulting do they do?
So David Casey provides accounting consulting services to the town. You have an assistant treasurer. She doesn't have an accounting background or the vision. So David comes in and he provides support services on a host of questions to be related to Canadian Revenue Agency. Should we go here or there? He checks over the quarterly reports, make sure we're on track. So it's a broad range of services. He's been providing them to the town before it was a town.
Okay. So when we have a CFO, will they still?
David will be able to retire.
Yes.
That's his intent, his retirement.
Yeah, so there'll be some mitigation in the cost of the CFO by not having to pay David Casey.
Okay, and for the Canada Post stamps, was that for a mail out?
Yeah, I don't know if you recall, there's a firefighter recruitment.
Yeah, I assume it wasn't stamps, it was.
So there is a special class in Canada Post for municipalities that we get a discounted rate.
Okay.
If you were to pay $1 something per stamp, it'd be well over $2,000.
Right.
You pay, it's less than $300.
I think it was $1,050 for stamps.
Was it?
Yeah, it was so. That's why I noticed it.
So we want to phase out of that. We'll be doing that.
2 more. Barry Gilmore mowing. So it's not just Squeaky Clean that does our mowing?
Do you remember driving up and down River Valley in Erebus and seeing the tractor with the great big bush hog on it, cutting grass? That's very,
Okay.
so it's a different type of,
Different type of mowing.
yes.
And just for expand, they come in twice a year.
Okay,
You just have the shoulders.
okay.
In a lot of municipalities, that would be contracted out, it's different type of equipment.
Right, okay. Last one, St. John Transit.
Good question.
What is that?
We get the bus service.
Okay.
St.
To
John,
Guardian?
pardon?
The bus to Guardian?
River
Or the one that
Valley.
goes to River Valley?
Yeah, so that's the number 12 Martinell bus. I inquired at St. John last fall during our budget session, and I asked, well, what are our ridership numbers? They don't have ridership numbers. When I talked to my colleagues in Ross Site and Chris Camp, they ended up hiring someone to ride the bus and physically count people. Previous councils, I would agree with the decision. I have thought that it was an investment to ensure that people can either come to Grand Bay-Westfield or leave Grand Bay-Westfield to go into the city. So
We had the Comax bus for a while, and we weren't willing to pay to keep it going because the ridership was just not there. And so what we agreed with transit is that instead of it just coming to the Guardian and stopping, that it would actually go through the community. And that's the monies that we need to pay to have that happen.
Is this payment a monthly payment, a quarterly payment, or how is that one?
And this is cool.
It was quarterly.
Yeah.
And so do we have any idea of ridership numbers?
Gladly find a student.
Should one of us ride the bus?
By the way, Chris Pam and Ross said have to buy bus fare for the student.
Did they really? Okay. I like the idea of the Comex, but for me personally, I would love to take it, but the times weren't
No,
great because I had to go, to get to the hospital, I had to go uptown and transfer.
and
To get to
then
the
get on the
hospital.
milk run and go to the hospital. And you don't know how many times I brought up that if you went from here to the hospital, I'd get on the bus.
Right, and the university, the hospital and the university is right there.
Yeah,
So I get a direct-
exactly.
a
And,
direct
and
ride.
they, the gentleman that was managing transit for St. John at the time could not see that. And when you have two bus drivers in Halifax in your family, you know about ridership in Halifax because I used to get on at my parents' place and get off at Dalhousie. And here, you couldn't get it past their heads by me going into St. John and then getting on the milk run. It was going to take me an hour and a half or longer to do what takes 30 minutes. I don't have any more time in my day to spend on the bus. And that was very frustrating because they weren't willing to do anything differently.
Well, with the advent of the IHI coming, that might be something that we can advocate for
Yeah.
as we have more students and more professionals moving to the
We're
area.
going to have apartment buildings and maybe the students are going to live in it and take the bus to school.
John?
Technology is also making transit easier. I don't know if it fits for our size, but there's a lot of cities that are now experimenting with on-demand transit, where you log into the app and you indicate, where you need to be picked up, where you need to go, and they're starting to shop it. I don't know exactly how that works. That's not my area, but I know that's there. Another potential challenge, or a way to overcome it, is in the Battleford's, we set up our own bus thing. We just had a small bus. I think it maybe carried 20 people pre-COVID. And that was geared towards seniors and whatnot. So we picked them up basically at the door and then dropped them off at the shopping mall, the hospital, or the clinic, or whatever. Kind of like an elementary version of on-demand transit. And it's just a flat rate, which is quite often much more affordable. more expensive than a typical bus, but still, it saves time for it as well.
Yeah, and that's a unique approach, and it addresses the barrier, especially for seniors that can't get from their house down to the bus stop in many cases, particularly in the winter. So do we have any more questions on bills for payment? Councillor Day?
19.
City Tech, if I had $1 for every time that Bruce advocated City Tech to me, I could retire. This is Bruce's favorite software, and
Okay.
it does a host of stuff, and I bet you Bruce is just dying to be able to brag about it for a moment.
I love it. And again, I've been using the software since 2007 and it's part of our sort of demonstration of that. But again, with the it's an asset management software. So I put my work orders in there, I track my assets in there, I put in things to do, and I can record when things happen and assign resources, and it's just great because you actually manage your resources by saying, I want to do work over here, but I need 1 truck, 2 guys, and you can do that. And then when you want to do something that takes another job, then there's a conflict because I don't have enough people. So you're able to plan and move things around. It's just great planning tool to have everything all on one screen.
It includes a map of his assets.
The way to manage it. You got to know everything to manage it.
Number 51, MB Southern Railway. I thought we didn't have to pay, or?
Yeah, we do. That's for the wastewater to get it down to the lagoon.
Can I expand on that? Again, just maybe for Councilor Day, I believe she was talking in previous years, there used to be an agreement that we paid to cross where the vehicles cross at the rail crossing to help fund for the lights and that going through. We no longer pay for that. This is for the underground piping, which was underneath the railway for our sewer lines, which cross over. I believe there's like 4 spots where it was underneath the railway, and it's an underground pipe on Greenwood as well.
Oh, okay.
So not for the crossing, underground crossing.
Okay, so years ago, we had a washout. And is that pipe still working well? And I don't want to see another washout like that. That was unreal.
The pipe that caused that is working well, but that wasn't an underground pipe.
Okay.
That was a block culvert that overran the road and then washed up the tracks.
Okay.
But once we fixed the culvert, it worked. But it was just a brook that went under.
And the last one I had was 91.
Do you remember the gentleman who spoke at the end of the day, Gary Gold?
Yes.
I had asked if he would like an honorarium because he drove down from Fredericton. He asked us to make a donation in his name to the Friendship School.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's what 91 is from.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much.
I just have one question, but it's not on content, it's mainly just on, it's come up because at this meeting and other meetings, a lot of times the questions we have are, is it monthly, is it quarterly, is it, I don't know if there's a way to structure it, because I see some of the items have monthly maintenance, but others don't. I didn't know if there's a way, if it's too difficult, but I think it would have a lot of value to our being able to assess if it's question or, because we don't know if, like the software, is that monthly, is that quarterly, is that a yearly payment? Like we don't know what the cost of the items are, so if there's a possible way to even structure it, like, one-time payments, yearly payments, quarterly payments, just so we know.
I mean,
Okay, yeah.
good suggestion.
Yeah, that's a great
It would just,
suggestion.
I think it'll probably cut down on a lot of our questions.
And just on that, yes, I made that note as well, and that one for City Tech is an annual, so that's one time payment.
Thank you. Because it's really different if it's 7,000 a month versus 7,000 a year. Like it's for us to question.
You haven't absorbed all that yet?
No, but I was going back to see if they weren't previous months, and I'm like, no, I can't do this every time.
Previous months?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for a year.
It really wouldn't be
For a whole year.
inconceivable if that would be a monthly. Like it's interesting. Thank you, I appreciate it.
We have any more questions on bills for payment? Councillor Balcom? No. Councillor Bailey?
Great.
No? Okay. If there are no further questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 9 is consent agenda, that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the consent agenda reports. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. We have second. Thank you, Councillor Balcom. We have any questions on the report? John, do you want to speak to the report?
This is the second Cascade report. I want to thank council for the feedback last time when they asked where was the Cascade report for the last meeting. This one is 50 plus pages, when you put both of them together. This is a living document. I really appreciate feedback. This is the information that you'd like to have. Is there something missing? Please let us know. We want to try and make sure that you have the information you need to understand what's going on and also to make an informed decision.
I just like to point out how incredibly comprehensive this report is. I absolutely loved it, and it was really long, but I read it all. I just thought it was great, just knowing, just identifying the accomplishments, the challenges, where we are in the process. I just thought it was just very easily understood, and it's nice to know where we are at any point in time with different initiatives.
The color coding, your worship, helps.
Yes. Yeah.
I just want to say I'm very grateful to the last council for investing in this. I think it makes my life a lot easier. I'm slowly convincing the others on the leadership team of that, and I'm glad to hear that this council appreciates it.
Yeah, no, and thank you to previous council, because this is really excellent. So thank you. Does anybody have any questions on specific items in the CAO report? I have a couple of questions, if that's okay. I would, the First Impressions program update. Can you tell us a little bit about that, John?
Yeah. So it was free when I was in Saskatchewan because we belong to CETA, which is the Saskatchewan Economic Development Association. I was able to find a free copy online, and we've been able to edit that. We're still not, Nicole's still not finished the ordering side of things. I'm going on holidays, and then we'll talk with Richard about where that is at. And looking at me and Gary, Bruce, myself, to do that, and maybe one other person, I'm not sure, to go over to Hampton, have Hampton come here. I'm looking at introducing it to Vision St. John, and then maybe have their staff use it to take a look at it, say, from a tourism perspective or development perspective. The more we can learn about ourselves, how we present ourselves to newcomers who want to move here or invest here, the better job we can do identifying those barriers so that they're not there for people to invest in. So we're on our way.
So thank you. This is really great. And one of my favorite things is the council resolutions. So it's how it tracks that where we are, and so we know what's been done. It's really great. Any more questions for John? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. So item 10, business arising from minutes, there is none. Item 11, delegations, there are none. Item 12, petitions, there are none. Item 13, bylaws. 13.1, council procedural bylaw, third reading. That the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the third reading of the council procedural bylaw number 123 and repeal bylaw number 106 in its entirety. May I have a motion? Oh, thank you, Councillor. And thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole, seconded by Deputy Mayor Toole. John, do you want to speak on this at all?
Since we last met, I amended the agenda part of the bylaw because I told council I'd forgotten how to word consent agenda stuff. And so I figured that out. Then as of course, you get down rabbit trails sometimes, and there's a lot of stuff that can be put in the consent agenda. And so I just suggested that we better utilize it. Spoke with the mayor about what you should and should not do, and that's been reflected in there. The things that won't be in the consent agenda that could be in the consent agenda are bills for payment. They're not in there, so there's more transparency that council does go through them. And those items of correspondence that don't require a decision from council will go into a consent agenda. If there is a decision that's required from council, say someone writes in and says, you know what, there's something blocking my road, the CAO and the Works Commissioner are approving it, I want council to overrule it, then we'll bring that to council on the regular agenda because it requires a decision. So that's sort of the rule of thumb that we can go by. I think that kind of captures the big change there.
Does anybody have any questions? Discussion? I just want to highlight again what John said, particularly about the bills for payment. I know that increased transparency and communication was important to everyone here. So I thought it was important that we go through all of those each meetings as opposed to having the option to pull it out of a consent agenda or not. So, yes, John?
If I just explain consent agenda to the council a little bit. Basically, you can put anything in the consent agenda that's just a routine item. And then the way, so council, accepts the consent agenda, passes the consent agenda. But when you read the minutes at the next meeting, they'll have a consent agenda start. Then each report or resolution that was attached to those routine items would be listed in the minutes, and then it would say consent agenda closed. So instead of all those decisions we had to make individually, they're captured as passed inside the consent agenda part of the minutes. Then you go back on to the non-routine items. Okay, so just a little bit of a heads up what to expect in the future on that. And we'll, assuming that this passes, we'll be using this agenda on a go-forward basis.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. So the next council meeting, we will be using our new agenda. So that's exciting. Okay. Item 14, notice of motion. There are none. Item 15, reports. 15.1, Truth and Reconciliation, Article number 3, UNDRIP, which is the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous First Peoples. Motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield adopt Article 43 of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's call to action.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Day. You have a second? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. We have any discussion on the motion? John, do you have any background for us?
Go on for a while. No, I think fundamentally when you look at the 6 articles that are directly related to municipalities, it's about working with Indigenous peoples. It's about respecting them. The best way to demonstrate to work is to respect them, is to work with them. And that's at the heart of what we're trying to do. And maybe Councillor Dalton has something to say about working with Indigenous people.
Absolutely. Your Worship, this morning I had the privilege of, with a colleague of mine on a committee that I'm on with the Royal Canadian Legion to meet with the First Nations people to get their input at the early stages of a project that is for the town, but being led by the Legion. It was very much welcomed by our guests, and very much appreciated by ourselves.
That's good.
And I was not representing council, I was representing the Legion.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Balcom.
We're not
Councillor Day?
doing anything that's unreal or on what other people aren't doing. Chris Francis, they've been dealing with some of the truth and reconciliation information as well. So for the public, we're not doing anything abnormal. We're doing stuff to create an atmosphere to talk and keep the dialogue open. And today we had our first Indigenous Governor General appointed, and hats off to her. She not only spoke English, she spoke in her native tongue, and she is learning French at an elderly age. and did marvelous today. So hats off to her. And I am so overjoyed to see us with her as our head of state and representing the Queen.
Thank you, Councillor Day.
And I'll add that up, Your Worship, and I would like to see a letter leave our community to her, congratulating her on her position.
Thank you, Councillor Day. I think that's more than appropriate. It's a historic moment for Canada.
Yes.
Absolutely. And, adopting this resolution provides a framework for reconciliation, healing, and peace going forward.
Yes.
Yeah, any further discussion? Questions? Oh, okay. John, yes?
Just have head nods from the table that the council agrees with the letter.
Oh, okay. We have consensus? Yes. Yes, John? Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. So if there are no further discussion on the motion, I just want to point out that the government of Canada has adopted this, and it received royal assent just in June. So that's we're on the right path to reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Thank you, Council. Item 15.2, Inglewood Drive speeding. That the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize staff to implement recommendation number 2 in the final report, Inglewood Drive speed study, November 13th, 2018, in 2022 to reflect 1.5 meter wide shoulder on both the east and west side, and the driving lane be reduced in width to 3.0 meters. I have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Day. And I have a second. Councillor Balcom, thank you. John, can you speak to this, please?
Yeah, there's been concern regarding speed limits on Inglewood Drive. I'm going to ask Bruce to speak to this after I do a high-level summary. It's posted as 40. People typically drive around 50 on it, give or take a little bit. The purpose of the lines is it's an artificial slowing barrier. Whenever you have an open space, people automatically want to put the foot down and drive a little bit faster. It's human nature. But as soon as you start making the space seem narrow, which lines do, or you put fencing along the side or a guardrail or something that people start registering as being smaller, they're going to slow down to be more careful. And so that's the intent of the lines. And I'll ask Bruce to take over from there if there's anything to add.
Yes, and I guess just as an analysis or I guess a comparison on that for everybody who's been over the Harbor Bridge when it's under construction, the lanes are still the same width. They put cones on that white line, but everybody slows down because it still appears to be narrower because there's cones on that white line. But the lane is still the same width as all year long, so people do slow down. But again, on Inglewood, because again, it's in conflict because it's a collector road, but it's a residential road as well. So people kind of are driving 50, but residentially people like 40. And again, with the lines, we'll put the lines in, which will slow a lot of people down. But with putting the new lines on, because we already have the old lines, we're waiting till those lines fade off a bit, because there's a large cost to cover those lines over and repaint them. So that next year when they fade off, we won't put them back. And then because the shoulders aren't at that 1.5 on both sides, we'll have to move the lines over a bit. So again, so we'll let the old lines now fade off, and then next year we'll put them in the right spot so we'll make that. And then whatever line is not there, then we'll paint those over black. But so it's kind of sort of the conflict why it's not necessarily, or it's not feasible really to do it this year, to do it next year when the lines fade.
So Bruce, we put in on one side of Inglewood, I'm going to call it a walking lane.
That would be the shoulder, yes.
Yes. So is that reduced?
In spots it could, but we're talking from say 1.9 to 1.5. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
like a foot or so in May. But again, when we go out and remark it, we'll do the measure and make sure that we get it. Because again, when we put the new line on the east side, well, that's going to put the center line over a little
Yeah.
bit. So that's why.
And there are people that walk on the other side where there is no pavement.
Yes.
So it will probably be beneficial for them as well.
And again, when we do get the shoulder painted on the opposite side as well, so they're on both sides, then our share of the road symbols don't need to go back in as well. We'll leave the signs up and we'll paint them back on the road.
Okay.
Right, because there'll be a more delineated bike lane there with the new
Yeah.
markings.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, John?
For single lane roads, do we, go on roads on single lane roads, I live on a single lane road and the speed is still 40 on the single lane road. So how do you address that?
John?
So it's my understanding, Bruce can build on it, is 50, I think, is the minimum level that can be legally enforced. 40 is more challenging from enforcement perspective. So when you put 40, it's not necessarily enforceable. 50 is enforceable, but not 40.
So how do you have a road that has lines on it, and when we have a single lane road with no lines, or no sidewalk, or no curb, how can you still be 40? Is it very safety? And when we talk about 4, but the same street, and nobody.
Because there's a difference still
Yeah,
between
yeah.
having a collector's road and a residential
It's
street.
just a single lane road, how can it be 40 on a single lane road? I still understand that, with chiller on it, but no sidewalks, no lines.
Yeah.
So it's puzzling that road.
No, maybe Bruce has an answer, I don't.
Well, I'm not sure really, I guess understanding it, because, and again, there is roads, again, single lane road and the speed limit, or there's a speed sign posted that says 40. I guess from what is whether you're thinking that 40 is too fast?
40 is too fast, yes. Should be 20 or 25, but it's 40. On a single lane road, I don't understand with children, kids walking the road. And
I guess that would be, I guess I'd have to look at it and find out.
You did a study on the road, and you guys said everybody's doing 40, but you should be doing 40 on the road, a single lane road. That's what turned on.
This still comes back to, can you prosecute for somebody speeding?
That's right.
When the
I'm
speed
saying,
limit's 20 and the answer is
how do you
no.
reduce the speed on the road?
Yeah, and it comes down to design issues. Do we look at lines? Do we look at some type of artificial barrier along the side to make it appear smaller when you drive through?
Because I find it concerning about a road that's 40 and it's legal width, and we're talking about not my road, it's 9 feet wide and you're doing 40 still. It doesn't make really jive, right? But I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't-
Well, I guess with that, I guess we can follow up with our traffic people and TAC to see what the story is, whether you can legally reduce, because this is what you're saying, is you want your street or some street in a residential area down that the speed limit is 30.
Yes.
You want 30, and if you go 35, to be fine.
Yeah, but it'd be 40 on a two.
And I guess as to whether that's something that we can do legally under the Motor Vehicle Act, or whether that's a design practice, I'm not sure, but we can definitely look at that. If we can get that speed limit down to.
It still becomes, how do you enforce compliance?
Yes, I had a neighbor across the street after we saw his speeding bike first go by, the sign up by our road, say slow down. So it's a weird situation on our street, right? That's all.
There's a lot of residential neighborhoods like that where you've got people speeding where you think they wouldn't speed.
Yeah.
So,
That's true. So it's, providing these engineered traffic calming measures for people that are just not being compliant is probably the best way to go about it.
So you did a study on the road too? You did a study on the road with the same machines?
Yeah, and it's just, having the narrower lanes helps, it causes people to slow down so that it's safer for the pedestrians and people backing out of driveways. Yes?
And just maybe to expand on that, and I guess for clarification, is Inglewood is a road for 2 lanes? I guess what Councilor Bailman is referring to is a road that's only for 1 vehicle.
Right.
1 vehicle wide, like a small lane.
Like-
Same for down Granny Point Road, there's one, so there's not 2 really passing, and there's no shoulders because it's just wide enough for really 1 vehicle.
Yeah, that's
And
like
that's
mine.
kind of the road that we.
In one turns.
Yeah, we all take turns backing into the driveways and the other ones.
Or
Yeah,
grass.
I'm sure we all do that. Do we have any questions on the motion?
I just have a comment. It was interesting to read that the narrower lanes do make people slow down. That was, because I always have thought it's really good to have the two sides for pedestrians and cyclists, and it would encourage, so this kind of kills two birds with one stone. It's going to encourage people to use pedestrian lanes, but I didn't realize that actually narrows. So this was really, I guess, educational for me, and I think it's a bonus, a win for the street.
Yeah, and that street, Inglewood,
It's well used.
it's well used, and it's liable for people to go fast because it's long and straight. And so, John?
Just to point out, council's also talked about bicycles, bike
Yes.
helmets, stuff like that. You go to the Netherlands, one, they have a bicycle culture, but they also have design features in traffic so that cyclists are safe. It's interesting to note, hardly anybody wears a cycling helmet in the Netherlands, and the number of injuries are quite insignificant. In fact, it was 2019, I believe, where the number of deaths on bicycles exceeded the number of deaths in motor vehicle accidents. And the big reason for that they said was men over 70 on electric bicycles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You take that away and there's hardly any bicycle accidents or fatalities.
Yeah.
So once again, it goes back to good design can solve a lot of problems ahead of time. This is one of those features that we're looking at.
Do we have any more discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. All right, item 15.3, credit card policy. That the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the credit card policy and that it be reviewed in 1 year. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Do you have any questions on the motion? John, do you want to talk about the policy? It's pretty straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward. This is just an outcome of the procurement policy that council approved. One of your first or second meetings, I don't recall. So yeah, we're just making sure that we have the right tools in place so that when we do receive the credit cards, staff will be able to use them.
And the current situation right now is that there's one credit card.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the vault, and everybody uses it. So Marcia spends a good portion of time going through that. Did it go to this department, that department, what department? And it's very convenient to use. So.
Yes, this will increase efficiency.
Yeah.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. We're on item 15.4, which is draft strategic plan. And so, as you all know, we've been working on the strategic plan almost right from the beginning, right after council boot camp. So, and we worked with the consultants to come up with the draft, and it's gone through different iterations and different discussions, the strategic priorities have been agreed upon. We're clear on those, but what we've been working on over the last few weeks are the mission and vision statements. So basically, what we're doing now is just trying to determine the best vision and mission statement that reflects our priorities and our vision for the town. And we sent the plan out this week, and I'd like us just to discuss the way you think the vision and the mission fit where we're going, and if we're on the right track. So, and for anyone at home that doesn't have this in front of them, the vision. We have two vision statements that we're working with. One is a welcoming place to live, grow, and thrive. And the second one is where everyone is welcome to live, grow, and thrive. And the benefits of both of these statements is they're both active statements. They're not passive statements. They're inclusive because they're not talking about you or us, which was a bit of a roadblock we had with some of the other ones that we were talking about. You is you and us is not you. So I think either one of these reflect what we were trying to reach much better than our initial choices. John, do you have anything to add?
No, they're short to the point. We can remember them. Everybody should be able to remember them.
Yeah.
What I'd like, if council needs more time than tonight, that's fine. We just ask for council's permission that we could authorize a consultant to start the next phase of the strategic plan, because I think we've more or less agreed on the strategic priorities. And then we can start working on what the tasks are and different work plans. So even if we don't agree on vision and mission tonight, which I understand, please give us permission to move on to the next step with strategic priorities. I would like to say that I really don't know how to tweak these ones anymore. The vision statement, I think really comes down to it's one or the other. And I'll save my comments for mission when we get there.
Okay. So we have any comments or discussion on the two vision statements? Deputy Mayor Toole, do you have a preference of either one of them or any comment?
Sure, I think for everybody kind of listening, and it looks like they're little small things, but it's extremely hard to get. Basically, all of us wanted to make sure all our strategic priorities were reflected in these one line. So it was tough, but what I like is the first one because it has the word place in it. So our vision is of a place. I know the second one does say where, but I like the first one because our vision is a welcoming place. Like it kind of grounds it. So that's just my only thoughts. And I did like the mission, and I know that everybody here was really happy with the use of the word facilitating, because just to this is council's mission, and council's role is to facilitate all this stuff for the town, for the citizens. So that was kind of an important, even though it's kind of a technical word, it's important because it does reflect what our work is. So I like that first vision, and I do like the mission. And I know a lot of work went into them, so.
Yes, there was a lot of, yes, John?
I was wondering if I could just let the deputy know that I think you and I improved the mission statement.
We did, yes.
And I think it was actually, is it your idea or Troy's?
What the change in the word from government to leadership?
Yeah.
That was Troy's.
Troy. So
Yeah.
this is the acting deputy CEO. So he suggested that instead of forward-thinking government, he said facilitating growth, wellness, and prosperity through effective and forward-thinking leadership. And the whole idea by substituting leadership for government is leadership happens at the volunteer level, it happens in business community, it happens at the schools. It's not just council, it's anybody who has any type of vision in the community working together to make our town better. So I just want to thank our deputy CEO for that contribution, pretty big contribution.
It was, as soon as John told me, I was like, yes, that's so much better, especially where it reflects all of those different levels of the community and not just, the council table. So that was a really great contribution, Troy. Thank you. It's amazing. Yeah.
So I'm curious, we have staff here tonight, and you've already helped us with the mission statement, so thank you. But which vision statement says or speaks to you? A welcoming place to live, grow, and thrive, or the second choice is where everyone is welcome to live, grow, and thrive. Bruce, it's the quietest you've been ever.
We were doing what John wanted. I guess from staff myself, I'm good with I'll work with both.
No, but
What's the question, Chris?
Yeah.
which one speaks to you? And don't be political.
That's right. You're a resident here, Bruce. What one resonates with you the most?
I like to welcome everybody. So, where everybody is welcome.
Okay. Nicole, you're new to our community. Which one resonates with you? The first one? Okay. We're not leaving you two out of it. First one?
First one.
First one.
There you go. First one.
Councillor Malcolm,
I was okay with both
you're okay with both?
because I was thinking the second one would be a lot more receptive in our town's external marketing for potential visitors, first visitors, and then secondly, new residents coming here.
Mhm.
But in reading them again, both are welcome.
That's great. Stephanie?
I like the first one. I like welcoming town to live, grow, and thrive, but it's just me.
I think place, in case we one day get bigger than town.
Yeah.
So I think places, while I love the word town, I think
Yeah.
place might be more versatile in terms of the concept that we made.
It is more versatile. I don't think it's welcoming, but it is more versatile.
John?
I just want to comment on place. I think place isn't just about the town, it's about the neighborhood, it's about the region, it's about the school, that we're welcoming everywhere, not just the town. So I think it's more extensive.
And the mission, that was my comment to you, that I didn't love the word government.
Yeah, and that was
So I
an
really
excellent
like it.
comment.
Yeah, I really like
dead on with that.
So that's going to be changed in forward-thinking leadership.
Yes,
I like it.
Love that.
I like that. How does everybody feel about that? The mission statement as is, but changing government to leadership.
Yes.
Right on.
Yes. And we'll go with the first comment in the vision.
Yeah, I feel like there's consensus around the room that number one is the one that fits how we feel the town is now and where we want to go in the future the best.
I'm happy to reflect on what the future will be.
He's action oriented over there.
Real time.
That's it. So if we have a second, if we could talk about the mandate a little bit too. It's facilitating balanced growth by implementing a population growth plan, enhancing our organizational capacity, establishing proactive infrastructure sustainability processes, digging into climate change, adaptation work, and prioritizing community vitality. John and I were talking earlier, we think that needs a little bit more work. Yes, and maybe John, you can talk about.
So can I just read what you and I edited?
Yes,
Save time.
yes, that'd be great.
Facilitating balanced growth by encouraging population growth, enhancing our organizational capacity, establishing proactive infrastructure sustainability processes, furthering climate change adaptation work, and prioritizing community vitality. I think it's a little bit cleaner. It's more succinct. Troy was on fire at our staff meeting today, and he says, it's the only one that says how we're going to do it. And, so yeah, it's a good, like I said, Troy's on fire this afternoon. So I think this one I just read is a lot better than the one that we had before lunch today.
And for the community that's watching this evening, this is something new for our community, and it pulls together our municipal plan and all the things that we campaigned on that you supported us to put us here. And this outlines what we're going to try to do for the next 4 years. So basically, by the end of 4 years, we're going to have a report card. And if you have been paying attention, you'll see what we have done to try and meet these priorities. And this has been an exciting time. And the amount of work this group here has decided to take on with the support of the leadership team of the community and the CAO, I think we're going to climb mountains, and I can't wait to see these guys go.
Thank you,
So-
Deb.
It's very nice, and we're going to be putting this information out. And I encourage everyone in the community to go in and look at this document, because this didn't happen overnight. This has been a huge, huge work in progress. And I'd like to thank our CAO for his leadership to us to go through this. And I'm just looking forward to the report card.
Yeah, I know this document is pretty much the most important document that we're going to do. It's going to guide our steps every day of our mandate. It's going to keep us focused, and it's that roadmap that's going to get us where we need to go.
Yes. And if somebody wonders, what is community vitality? No, that's not a vitamin pill. It's implement the comprehensive recreation master plan. So in other words, we're going to have the master plan come back to us, and it won't gather dust on the shelf. We're going to do something with it. And we are holding ourselves accountable under community vitality so that we don't let it gather dust on the shelf.
That's right. And once the strategic plan is adopted and it's entered into the Cascade software, we'll be able to track where we are. So we are not just to ourselves, but to everybody that wants to take a look at the report. The information will be out there for all to see once we get all of those moving pieces put together. So do we have any more discussion on the draft strategic plan? So I guess the motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield refer back to administration, and that this be brought back to council for discussion.
Or you can adopt.
We can adopt it.
It seems that we have agreement on
Yeah.
3 basic statements. We've had pretty much agreement on the strategic priorities for a while. So then adopt it, and we'll start working to develop a work plan around it, including tasks and goals and stuff like that, to try to achieve the goals. And then the tough part will be budget meetings.
Yes.
How are we going to?
Yeah, how are we going to do it all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just the beginning.
Okay. So I'll state that new motion, and if there's any discussion after we have it first and second, then we can do that. That the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the strategic plan.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do we have any discussion on adopting the strategic plan as is?
I guess we need your letter added in. It's the only one that's.
I submitted my letter, but late.
But we trust you. We can't do it as it is in the materials, as it is with your letter.
Yes, well, I guess in principle, or
Yeah.
is that the right terminology? Yeah, in principle. Yeah, so, and everybody, do we have consensus around the table? Is everyone comfortable with, yes, John?
Sorry, you can finish what you're saying when you come up to me. All I was going to suggest to council is if they read your op-ed piece to the Telegraph Journal, seems like forever ago now. I know it's not that long, but it seems like a lot of water under the bridge.
Yeah.
That is the bones and the muscle of what's being said. Mary emailed it to me this morning. I have not had a chance to look at it yet. But that is sort of the bones of everything. And if you're good with that, then I think you'd be good with what she has to say as part of the mayor's message.
Yes,
She did a really good article for the Telegraph Journal, so I'm sure she's going to do a great letter for us.
well, I did, I tried to write it numerous times over the week, and I just couldn't get it right. And then I started thinking everything that I wanted to say was basically in the body of that article. So that was the base of it, because we look at the strategic plan as, it's not just a roadmap, but it's a document to sell our town to new residents, businesses, and to our own people that live here. So I wanted to have it be inspirational in nature. So hopefully I accomplished that with the letter.
Good.
I guess you'll find out when you see it. So if is everyone comfortable with where we are with this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? The motion is carried and our strategic plan is adopted. It's really great work, everybody. It's very
Yes.
exciting.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, John.
And
Really
thank you.
guided us through this and got us where we are right now. So I appreciate that very much. Item 15.5, Government New Brunswick, surplus land, PID 225391. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield purchase the surplus land. John, I'm going to have you speak on this, please.
I provided council with a topographical map. The land is not accessible, and when you look at the map, it's fairly steep. The lines are 1 meter increments. It's not as steep as the land to the north, but it's still fairly steep. Given that aspect of it, if you look at another satellite photo, you'll see that I don't know if I shared this in the package or not. It's not the best looking piece of land, and just because of the accessibility issues getting to the land, and then accessibility from the land to the river, we don't really think it's a prudent investment on council's part. So we're recommending that council defeat the motion. And just reminding council, it's a positive motion. The request was, do you want to buy it? So, and then if you don't want to defeat it, if you do want to buy it, say yeah.
Right. And I think I neglected to get my motions before I asked you to speak. So sorry about that. I'll get those motions now and then we can have discussion. So I have a motion. So, thank you, Stephanie. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Day. Have any questions or discussions on the motion?
Just when John mentioned it was not accessible, there's no road, there's no, have to be going through private land to.
So there's no benefit buying.
No, I tried to find it and I couldn't get there. So I'm not sure, how we would utilize that land, especially where it's not even beachfront, it's on a cliff.
You're 100% correct, your worship. You can't get there.
Okay. Yeah, I guess.
It's a hard trek. There's no easy access. There's no access water. It's a cliff. It's small. It's not.
Because I'm a bit challenged with maps, so I need to go see it in person, and I couldn't figure out how to get there. So I figured it was fairly remote and not very accessible.
Just one of the clerics, there has been so much discussion about wanting land, wanting access, but this isn't access.
Yeah, and it's a cliff.
It's a cliff, yeah. It's not, it's not something we would be enjoying.
Unless you like cliff jumping. Okay, do we have any more discussion on the motion? All in favor? Contrary minded? Okay, motion is defeated. Item 16, correspondence. 16.1, letter regarding municipal designated highway program 2022 to 2026. Motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the letter of July 6, 2021 from Raymond Brunn Municipal Engineer Government of New Brunswick. Thank you. Stephanie, do we have a second? Thank you. Councillor Balcom. Any, so this letter is just regarding our request for the municipal designated highway program. That's basically what that is. Do you have any questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. So item 16.2, letter read local governance reform and the green paper. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the letter of July 15th, 2021 from Daniel Alain, Minister of Local Government and Local Governance Reform. Councillor Day, thank you. We have a second. Deputy Mayor Toole. So this letter is just in response to the letter that we prepared regarding our position on local governance reform. The letter points out some of some of the highlights of our letter, such as our interest in the potential expansion of our boundaries, expansion of regional cost sharing to include the LSDs, the need for flexibility in creating property tax classes, and undertaking various actions to strengthen regional collaboration among local governance entities and ensuring elected representation for the LSDs. So those are the highlights of our position that we sent back at the end of June. John, do you have anything to add to that?
No.
Okay. Any questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 16.3 is a good news item. Greeting card YMCA of Greater St. John, that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the thank you card of July 22nd, 2021 from YMCA of Greater St. John. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. I'll give you the second. So thank you, Deputy Mayor Till, for second. So this is, we made that donation back I think was last meeting or the meeting before. So, and this is in support of the annual Strong Community Campaign, and I know there's local children that benefit from that. So this was good. Any questions on the card? No. So all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 20, adjournment.
So moved.
Wait, let me read the motion. That the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield adjourn the meeting at 9:04 p.m.
So moved.
I have a second? Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? All right. Motion is carried and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, leadership team. Thank you, council. Was adopting that strategic plan is a big thing, John?
Clarification on a couple things.
Yes.
We didn't discuss Fundy Regional in camera.
Yes.
We need to just 3 minutes on that, I think. First thing, Council